All right, welcome everyone. Welcome. Thank you everyone for coming today. In a few moments we'll hear from the winner of the latest recipient of the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economics. And first I want to introduce the president of the University of Chicago, Robert J. Zimmer.
Thank you everyone for coming today. Good morning. It's a great pleasure to be here this morning as we discuss the work of Richard Thaler, a University of Chicago faculty member whose insights and creative scholarship have earned the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economics. Joining me on the stage this morning are Provost Daniel Diermeier, Dean Madhav Rajan, and of course our newest Nobel laureate, Dick Thaler. I'd also like to recognize Lars Hansen and Jean Famath, also Nobel laureates who I believe are in the room, although oh, there they are. Okay, very nice. I'd like to offer just a few introductory words about Professor Thaler, the Charles R. Walgreen Distinguished Service Professor of Behavioral Science and Economics at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. A major reason for Richard Thaler's award today is that his work has provided scientific leadership in defining a new paradigm of economic behavior at a level that is unusual in any field. In its citation today, the Academy cited his historic role in building the field of behavioral economics, noting that his, quote, contributions have built a bridge between the economic and psychological analyses of individual decision-making, end quote. His research has challenged existing assumptions and proposed new ways of thinking about what motivates the behavior of individuals in the economy. In doing so, Professor Thaler has forged a completely new understanding of behavior in domains ranging from household finances to issues of national policy, and has shaped the thinking of international policymakers as well as his colleagues in the field of economics. This intellectual approach, one of constant questioning, challenging assumptions, and creative work in building a new field, defines the University of Chicago's distinctive intellectual culture, which draws ambitious scholars and students from across the globe. It is a culture of challenge, continually testing and questioning one's own ideas, just as we freely challenge and test the ideas of colleagues and students. Such demanding methods lead to the highest levels of collaborative work and academic achievement of the sort that is recognized with Nobel Prizes. Richard Thaler today becomes the 90th Nobel laureate to be affiliated with the University of Chicago, and 6 current members of our faculty have received the Nobel Prize in Economics. And here to speak about Richard Thaler's extensive contributions to the field of economics is Dean Madhav Rajan of Chicago Booth. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome all of you here to celebrate Professor Richard Thaler and congratulate him on being awarded the 2017 Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences. Not only is Dick widely known and respected for both his academic work and his teaching in behavioral economics, he's widely recognized as a founding father of the field. His research, as Bob mentioned, bridges the gap between economics and psychology. He studies the implications of relaxing the standard assumption of a self-interested, rational economic agent, instead entertaining the possibility that at sometimes some people actually choose to behave as human beings. His revolutionary work has changed academia and has also had wide-ranging practical implications. Dick Thaler, in my mind, represents the quintessence of Chicago Booth's mission: to produce knowledge with enduring impact and to influence and educate current and future leaders. Dick has authored multiple best-selling books, including 2008's Nudge, Improving Decisions About Health, Wealth, and Happiness, and more recently, Misbehaving, The Making of Behavioral Economics. In these and other publications, he creates easy-to-understand scenarios that show how human behavior often contradicts traditional economic logic. Nudge, a book that Dick co-authored with Harvard Law professor Cass Sunstein, explores how the concepts of behavioral economics can be used to tackle many of society's major problems and to influence public policy. It was ranked the best book of the year by The Economist and Financial Times. His research prompted the United Kingdom government to establish a behavioral insight team, or a nudge unit, to create policies that enable British citizens to make better choices and in turn save the state money. Dick served as an advisor in setting up the unit's guiding principles. In Misbehaving, which Financial Times named one of the most influential business books of 2015, Dick chronicles the struggle to bring the academic discipline of economics down to earth and reveals how behavioral economic analysis can change the way we think about everything from household finances to the National Football League draft. Dick's other books include Quasi-Rational Economics and The Winner's Curse, Paradoxes and Anomalies of Economic Life. Dick, of course, has numerous scholarly works as well. His work has been published in the American Economic Review, the Journal of Finance, and Journal of Political Economy, among others. In 2015, he was president of the American Economic Association. That year, he was also named to Bloomberg Market's list of the 50 most influential people. Originally from New Jersey, Dick attended Case Western Reserve University, where he received a bachelor's degree in 1967. Soon after, he attended the University of Rochester, where he received a master's degree in 1970 and a PhD in 1974. Over the years, Dick has taught at the University of Rochester and Cornell University. He also served as a visiting professor at the University of British Columbia, at the Sloan School of Management at MIT, the Russell Sage Foundation, and the Center for Advanced Study in Behavioral Sciences at Stanford. Dick joined the Chicago Booth faculty in 1995, and at Booth, he's the Charles R. Walgreen Distinguished Service Professor of Behavioral Science and Economics. Dick, of course, played a major role in helping build the behavioral sciences faculty at Booth, vastly expanding the school's footprint and stature in this field. Finally, on a personal note, within a few days of joining Booth as dean this summer, I had the great pleasure of a visit from Dick, and he gave me an autographed copy of his book, Misbehaving, which you will not see on eBay anytime soon. This book is a fascinating read. It's a personal account of the development of behavioral economics. And in the inside cover, he had a handwritten note suggesting that I read chapter 28 in particular. And I would urge all students and alumni and anyone with an interest in understanding the faculty culture at Booth to read that chapter. It truly is an honor to have Richard Thaler as a member of the Booth community. We are thrilled for him and congratulate him on his extraordinary career and this well-deserved recognition. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 2017 Nobel Prize winner in economics, Richard Thaler.
Thank you very much. I'm pretty sure this is the first time that the president, provost, and dean have had a conversation about me in which the phrase pain in the ass was not mentioned, for which I'm grateful, although I'm sure that is not a forecast of future behavior. So, yeah, today's prize does compensate a bit for my disappointment at the Oscars 2 years ago. There's no prize for best behavioral economist, which I think is unfair, a topic I've studied at some length. So I don't really intend to give a speech. This isn't the Oscars. Thanking everybody would take forever. I had many co-authors on my papers. Two that I should mention in particular. One is Cass Sunstein, who was our colleague here for many years, a good friend and co-author of Nudge. The other is Shlomo Ben-Artzi, who is better than anyone else at getting me to work. So I have more papers with him than with anyone else. You know, the experience of being a Booth faculty member is one of tough love. The behavioral science group, it's a little less tough, but only a little. It's been good to be here all these 20 years, arguing with guys like Fama. It's good for me, you know, we now try to keep our arguments to the golf course, but Gene is in such a hurry that it's hard to get in much of an argument. Just thanks to everybody. That's all.
All right, thank you. We have a little stage business to do here, but I just wanted to let people know that there'll be some opportunities in the coming weeks and months for the university community to celebrate this award at greater length. In the meantime, today, we are honored to have some representatives from the international media that have come here today, and we've promised them a chance to ask some questions, so we'll provide that opportunity in just a second. There are a couple of microphones for media to ask questions, but if you can't get one, for the benefit of the webcast audience, I'll do my best to repeat the question so everyone can hear. So with that, any questions from the media? Well, yeah, media questions.
But I'm not allowed to reveal her location.
Another question.
One question.
One at a time. So where were you when the call came in?
So I was asleep, very much asleep. The call came at 4 this morning. My wife's here, she can attest to that. They say, whatever you do, don't tell anybody for the next hour. Like, there's a lot of people that are awake, waiting for your call. Then they ask you to participate in a press conference that they have in Stockholm, assuming you've accepted. Which I did, and unlike Bob Dylan, I do plan to go to Stockholm. So thank you.
Thank you. Other questions from the media? Yes. So the question is about getting mainstream economists to accept your theories in behavioral.
Yeah, I think you used the word embrace. I would say impossible. embracing, economists don't do a lot of embracing, actually. Psychologists are more like the hugging type than economists. You know, I always say that I don't think I've changed anybody's mind in 40 years. You basically don't change anybody's mind. So given that, I've used the strategy of corrupting the youth, and whose minds are not already made up. And so I think young economists, many great young economists have embraced behavioral economics. Some are full-time practitioners. Others are just people who write things up. They let the data speak. And the growth of the field is really due to the work of the people that followed me. Let me mention a couple. Two were on our faculty early in their careers, George Lowenstein and Colin Kammerer. And they didn't really need to be converted. They had, Colin was a student here and then returned as a faculty member. And then people like David Leibson, Matthew Rabin, Senda Mulanathan. If I go on, I'm going to insult more. So all the people I'm leaving out, just blame my bad memory. You know, we had this Russell Sage Foundation. We started a summer camp for graduate students in 1994. In fact, I was wearing my camp T-shirt this morning when it says quasi-rational on the front of it. Two of the students at that first camp were Leibson and Sendel, and Matthew Rabin was sort of counselor in training. And Leibson and Rabin have been teaching the camp for the last decade. And that's where the field was really created. I think it was Danny's idea to start that camp. And I still go. It's a lot of fun. No marshmallows, but beer.
Next question. Yes.
Well, you know, my acting without Selena there is not as good. Well, let me say the following. I've already, and I'll preempt one question that some reporter may ask, that I've answered a couple times this morning. Economists, and Lars and Jean, I'm sure were asked this question, which is, so what are you going to do with the money? Now, most economists are too polite to explain that they think that this is a stupid question. And the reason why they think it's a stupid question is that economists know that money is fungible. And so what do you mean, this money? So if I go out to dinner, is it this money or some other money? So this isn't a completely stupid question to me, since I believe in something called mental accounting, which is precisely people putting labels on money. And so what am I going to do with the money? What is left is anytime I spend any money that's really fun, I'm going to say that came from the Nobel Prize.
So we'll have time for a couple more questions, and then there'll be an opportunity after the main event is over. But next question? Yeah.
Well, since Cass and I wrote the book Nudge, right after that, David Cameron had read the book. One of his young team had bought a bunch of copies and piled them up in a place where Cameron would see them and be nudged to read one. And they wrote in their manifesto, which is like a party platform, that if elected, they would apply behavioral science to public policy. And being used to American politics, I knew about this, but never expected anything to happen. But they take their manifestos seriously there. So they created this behavioral insight team. It was about 6 people originally. I've spent a lot of time with them over the years. They're now, that group is over 100. And according to the World Bank, there are now 75 such units around the world. So it's happening. What are they doing? You know, when I was first working with that team and I would go around talking to various ministers, I kept uttering the phrase, if you want to get people to do something, make it easy. This is old wisdom from psychology, from Kurt Lewin, remove barriers. And so this, I said it often enough, it sort of became the team mantra. And so one of the things these teams do is try and make it easier for people to achieve their goals. So an example that we wrote about in Nudge was one of the hardest things students tell us about applying to college is the student loan forms. Now, the government gives the loans. What is the information they need? It's tax returns. Who has the tax returns? The government. And kids often have divorced parents who may not be all that interested in sharing their tax returns with one another, but the government has all the information. So we argued for what they call pre-populating these forms. And doing that increases applications to college. So this is an example of, you know, the lightest possible form of nudge. Just making it easier to fill out an application, that'll encourage people to get more education, and we think that's good. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Memoria de Chicago's 9OCT'17 television. Obviously, you're winning this prize certainly removes the barrier and that the entire world now knows your name. So who do you now want to most read your book, understand your theory, and apply it?
Yeah, I just shouldn't go there, right? Yeah. Let's just say that the obvious answer, I can think of pros and cons. And, you know, I just would say everybody here should read that chapter about the offices, and no harm can come of that. And, but yeah, people in business and government, I think, can learn useful ideas and skills from you know, what have I done? I basically have made a career stealing ideas from psychologists. And you can save the trouble of learning from the psychologist directly just by looking what I've stolen. So.
All right. Well, there will be some more availability now, but I think we'd like to thank everyone once more for coming today. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Steve.